Greetings, folks, Dunman here, and welcome to the end of this epic saga of videos. We've gone through a lot of bad stuff, but we've achieved twice as much. And we've made friends, and we've fought enemies, and we've started a whole new religion, and had so many more memorable moments. And I've ended up telling one of the greatest stories that I've ever told. And now let's just jump right into this epic finale. We start our grand finale with grass, because grass is apparently how you make more kangaroos. And after collecting all the grass, I went back home, where I was immediately attacked by this disgusting beast, who I beat to death with my bare hands. Shears should do some damage. If you got hit by shears IRL, it would be painful. Then suddenly I realized that I also had access to emotes, so I wasted a lot of time just doing this. The thing with kangaroos is that after you've bred them, you also have to tame the babies, which is kind of weird, but for that you need carrots, so I spent some time picking up and replanting the carrots. Also, horrendous news, Perry the platypus had gone missing. I'm assuming he was out on a mission or something, but I can't find that damn platypus. Then I hung out with my kangaroo army for some time. The troops seemed in good spirit, which is nice, because soon they're gonna have to go to war. I also made them make some new troops, which was an interesting sentence. Came across a wandering trader and decided to follow Minecrafter tradition by bludgeoning those heads in and stealing his equipment. I don't know why I did this. For some reason I wanted to know what it would do because of all the mods. And I put in some cobblestone into the stone cutter, and apparently you can turn it into a bunch of different stuff. So I decided to make hundreds of creeper pillars. It's very interesting that I can make so many of those. I placed a few of them down and I accidentally right-clicked one of them, and it started glowing, so I nearly crapped myself thinking it was gonna explode. But it didn't. Apparently they're just like decorative lights. They're fine. They're essentially glorified, more menacing looking redstone lanterns. You can turn them on and off. Also, I realized that they would come in very handy for my next big project. There is nothing inherently different about them that makes them more useful. Could have used any blocks. It's just helpful that these are 2 blocks tall automatically. So you just have to spend less time and less pillars in order to make a 2-block tall fence. Then I went back home, got every single lead in my possession, and started collecting up iron golems. This is my next project. What I was planning to do is to get every single golem I could from the village. Since I had a lot of villagers that I'd made for the enchantments in the last episode, I would take all of these golems far away from the village and store them in my little creeper pillar pen. And after I'd done that, more golems would spawn, and essentially I would have a bunch of golems, so that I have more soldiers for the upcoming fight. I did this a few times till I had about 9 golems in that little pen of mine, which I thought was enough since more would be spawning in my base anyway, so I'd have around 15 by the time of the battle. Then I got distracted again, which is less of an exception and more of the norm, I've realized rewatching some of my old videos, and I started taming a horse. But the problem is, the horse was so slow and ineffectual that the only time I actually rode it is when I rode it back to the village, which would have been faster if I just walked. Then I got immediately distracted by this trader who was selling a sombrero and abandoned every single preparation for the war and completely focused on getting this hat. Like, instantaneously scraped together every single emerald I had left after my insane spending spree on the enchanted books in the last episode, sheared every sheep in sight, took out all the stocks I had of carrots and stuff and traded them in with every single villager that would give me anything for anything I could give them, and finally scraped together enough emeralds to buy that goddamn beautiful hat. Pillager invasion be damned. This is what the show should have been. Hat collection. Oh god, it's that stupid joke from Minecraft Live again. No! By the time I'd gotten the sombrero, Some of the kangaroos that I'd made had grown up and needed to be tamed, which again is redundant. Why would you have to breed them and tame them again? Why can't they just work like dogs? I'm angry about this because I spent a lot of time doing it. But whatever, I got the kangaroos anyways. But there was this one kangaroo in particular who was especially, let's say, dull. Even after I tamed him, he still wouldn't follow me, or at least he tried to. He just kind of jumped up and down in the same spot, broke the blocks around him. Nothing worked. It was just kind of there. But after spending so much time around him, I kind of grew to like him. And I got attached, okay? I called him Sombrero-Roo. I gave him my sombrero. He looks adorable, come on, look at him. Then I stood up the entire army and went into somewhat of a battle. I went and fought some zombies and other creatures of the night, just because I wanted to see how strong the kangaroos actually were. The thing is, after they start fighting, I have to stop, because once I've hit something, they just swarm the thing, and so it's kind of up to them to do the damage. But at the end of the day, they're animals. They don't really have that much defense or offense going in their favor. Especially not against trained hordes of, like, barbarian demon people. Also, some of the kangaroos kinda exploded. So a quick retreat was performed and a decision was taken that ultimately the kangaroo army was gonna need some gear. Something to fight with, and something to stop them from getting bonked permanently. So I went back home and collected a bunch of iron from my furnaces, which I had collected from the caves in the last few episodes. And then guess what happened? I got distracted and started building a shrine for the kangaroos that had and would fall in battle. Which, this thing was insane. I nearly took an entire day to build it. Was it worth it? Absolutely it was. I was able to give the kangaroos that had already fallen a true warrior's funeral, with their remains being passed on to the next life through fire. It was very emotional and beautiful. And unfortunately I knew that I was gonna have to do that once again sometime in the future. But dark thoughts aside, I started focusing on the next mission, which was to get the kangaroos equipped for the next battle. I had many enchanted stone swords lying around from my little trip to the nether, so I gave most of the kangaroos those. Also, I was looking for armor and I found this, the Vanguard chestplate. Now this thing cost less than iron chestplates, but was better, so it's like an insane deal. So after comparing it with the rest of the gear in the game, I decided that this was the way to go. But the problem is, I also invested a bunch of time in something that would be kinda useless. You see, what I tried to do is create this big grid where I could have all the kangaroos stationed. But the problem is, moving over 100 kangaroos is kind of impossible. Especially if you want them to neatly fit into a giant wooden grid. So after I quickly did that stupid move, I went ahead and crafted up all the Vanguard chestplates that I would need, and slowly started distributing them throughout the army. Now comes the matter of offense. We have the defense taken care of via the Vanguard chestplate, but what about the offense? What I found was a tiny little thing called the dagger. They only cost 1 iron and 1 stick to make. But the thing is, they do the same amount of damage as a friggin' diamond sword. I was genuinely flabbergasted when I saw this thing. I couldn't believe it existed. And then I made a bajillion of them. And then I started giving those out. But then I thought, wait, this could be better. And so what I decided to do was to go ahead and enchant. It was nothing spectacular, mostly just unbreaking once and sharpness once. But you know, it all compounds. An army of kangaroos armed with enchanted tools beats an army of kangaroos with not enchanted tools. So after that was handled, I gave these to the army and they instantly decided to prove how good this decision was by slaying a zombie right in front of my face. Then I found about 3.5 stacks of stored away iron in the chest, which I forgot when I mined this, but this is awesome! So with that iron, more chest plates were on the way, and even more soldiers would be safer. Now the thing is, kangaroos can wear 2 pieces of armor, a chestplate as well as a helmet, so I started looking for a good helmet. The Vanguard helmet, the other part of the Vanguard set, seemed to be pretty good. Problem was, this thing was more expensive than an iron helmet. It required a gold ingot. Now here's a question. Would the Lord Mike mind if I took gold from his temple? First I thought, let's just see how the helmets look on our soldiers before I start robbing religious establishments. And here's the travesty. The helmet looks goddamn awesome. It's so cool with the little gold spike and their floppy ears hanging by the side. So I had to do it. Oh god, there were people praying, everyone was at the temple, and I just went in and I just mined out 4 blocks worth of gold from the Temple of Mike. It's for a holy cause, okay? Don't judge me. But let's just say the involuntary donation from the temple was pretty good, since I got enough gold to equip every single kangaroo with one of those fancy helmets. Now I went back and got all the golems that I put in the little creeper pillar pen, because the battle was soon approaching and I needed them close to the fighting. Having iron golems in the front lines, as robust as that seems, is not a good idea, since if I accidentally hit one, all the kangaroos are gonna fight them, and then they're gonna fight back, and then my army is just gonna end up fighting itself. The plan was to have them in a little grass pen behind the battle, so that if I started losing I could fall back, release them, and have them fight. After that I put in some time for organizational purposes, kind of stored up my inventory, took a look at everything that I would and wouldn't need, and in general just took inventory of everything that I had in my, well, inventory. Also, I crafted up some food, which kind of sounds weird, crafting food, but that's essentially what you do. Also, I took some of the remaining gold from the temple donation, and I turned it into nuggets, which I used to make golden carrots. But I was suffering through success, kind of. I still had 18 diamonds left over, and I didn't know what to do with them. But I wanted to do something with them. Clearly, that was enough to do something for the whole army. But I could do something. If only there was a special kangaroo who deserved a special diamond sword. So with those 18 diamonds, first of all I made a diamond chestplate, of course, and then I made something called a dungeon diamond sword, which is like a diamond sword but shinier, and then I gave them to Sombrero, which is absolutely difficult to say. But needlessly tongue-twisty name aside, I really want to protect this guy. I've grown so close to him over the course of this time. Parry's missing. Oh my god, I love him so much. But after that was done, I went back home, finally sorted out my inventory, decided what I wanted and what I didn't, kicked the villager out of my bed one last time, and went to sleep. And here it was, the day of reckoning, the day the war would happen. And conveniently, something showed up behind my house. A very peculiar structure, and pull to fight us, you ugly little boy. Oh, the pillagers were in for it this time. They would face death for insulting my ego, honor. Then I turned to the barracks, and I started making the kangaroos stand up. One by one, every single step had led up to this point. From putting the army together, to training them, to arming them all with the finest knives, and the finest chestplates, and the finest helmets, with gold stolen from God himself. This was it, the battle that the past 9 episodes have been building up to. And then I pull lever number 1, and it is on. What I very quickly came to realize is that I had thoroughly underestimated the power of the army. The second the battle begins, they just swarm this one Ravager and just dissolve him. It's almost like watching piranhas. It's scary. About the fighting, all I had to do really was to just get one hit on all the Illagers and the kangaroos would take care of the rest. The only scary ones were the Vindicators, armored and not armored. They hit hard. Even through protection netherite armor, you can feel them. After that came the next wave of enemies, and this time they had some weird golem with them, whom I shot at and missed instantly. But as I got some hits in on the Illagers in the first line, the army started fighting. The kangaroo army, I cannot praise them enough for how just cracked they actually are. Thing is, it doesn't even really matter how much damage they do. There were so many of them that after I hit something, they would just create a wall. And that's why this weird Illager mage was a big problem. Because he had actual wall-making powers. The only thing that the army is weak to. So we had to fall back a little bit, get away, put some distance between us and the goddamn mage. I was able to shoot an arrow perfectly at the evoker, which that range it shouldn't be impressive, but it is because I have managed to not hit any of my own soldiers. Not only is the evoker a strong enemy, but killing him also gives me a totem of undying, which helped me for the rest of the battle. We again tried to brave the mage, go in, fight him, again had to run back, but while going back, I saw the isolager. He was so handsome and beautiful and tall. But regardless, he had to be dealt with. We also got the evoker, which meant I have the totem. The mountaineers aren't really imposing enemies, they're just very, very fast, which doesn't help when you have to run through 1,000 kangaroos. Now this guy had a horrible fate. Can you imagine being stuck in waist-deep water as hordes of enemy forces fall down upon you, trying to hack you to pieces, and succeeding evidently? Horrible. Same with this guy. Tried to put a shield up when my forces attacked him, wasn't very useful. But now it was time for the final calamity of the Illagers. A weapon, a monster that they had created. Its only purpose, to destroy everything we hold dear, and to crush all good things under its massive fists. The redstone monstrosity was an absolute menace. Not only was it an absolute unit by itself and it hit like a truck, it also spawned in legions of these little creatures, its babies or eggs or whatever they were. They were a problem to deal with. I had to have multiple golden apples, but the fact of the matter is the army clutched it. There were so many of them that latched onto this thing and just started stabbing. You could visually see its health bar drop. Even when I had to fall back, they kept fighting on. They kept raging on. So many were killed. But despite this, just as the sun had started setting, and the battle was coming to a close right in front of my eyes, my beloved kangaroo slayed the monstrosity. They had saved New Greece. But at what cost? The battle was a painful one. We had to sacrifice so much. Too much. We returned to the barracks. I sat everyone down. I put some of the stuff that I had gained from the battle in the chest. Loot as well as, well, armor of the fallen. Sad reminders, but necessary ones. I went back to the battlefield and started collecting all the armor from all the fallen soldiers. While doing this, I also spotted something in the water. After being marginally harassed by a creeper nearby, I finally stepped into the wetness and got myself the great trophy, the head of the monstrosity which had been lopped off. And I went to bed with thoughts of the dead in my head. The next morning was peaceful, but it was a melancholic peace. Everything just kind of felt shaken up. I found a dog sitting nearby, who had, by no fault of his own, managed to survive the whole battle, and I took him along with me for another round in the battlefield, just to see if I hadn't missed anything. I came home for a few minutes, looked around, looked at the little globe on my table, thought that decoration needs a little change. Yeah, well, I guess anything to distract me from what had just happened. I had to do something to honor them. So what I started to smelt some stone in order to make some new blocks in order to build a memorial. And while the blocks smelted, I went for a walk. I walked through the fields, I went to the pond, I found some elytra, and again was reminded of the fact that Perry was not here. Went to the trophy room, which had the glitched out dragon egg, no floor. Now that I think about it, this is really where that head belongs. But screw it, it looks better on the table, damn it. It was going to be a few armor stands, along with the armors of the kangaroos who had fallen in battle. In total, there were 9 kangaroos missing. I had enough armor to account for 8 of them. The only one who wasn't here? Sombrero. I searched everywhere for him, but it's like
he simply just vanished. He wasn't among the dead nor among the living. I also went ahead and cremated all the remains of the kangaroos that I had. An honorable end for honorable souls. Also went ahead to the temple and rung the bells. May Mike keep their souls in peace. That night, I was just around and about. I was thinking of everything that had happened and of what I'd do next. Nothing was coming to mind until I saw something. In the chest, I saw the animal dictionary, a gateway into knowledge, a symbol of the unknown. I turned around and took a look at New Greece one last time. I knew I wasn't going to be going back there again. The villagers had everything they needed. Walls to protect them, golems to defend them in case someone got past those walls. The army was still here. They had plenty of food, a fortress, my house. So I took a step, and I took another step, and I kept moving ahead. And I saw the moon, and then I was in the air. But I couldn't help myself. I just had to just take one last look around of everything we'd built, all the memories, everything we'd done together. It all feels so surreal now. This whole playthrough has been incredible. The kind of support that you guys have shown me. This series made me go from someone just uploading videos to being a YouTuber, and I cannot be grateful enough for that. So please subscribe and keep watching and keep looking at me do more stuff that starts out as stupid and ends up emotional like this. The channel is gonna have so much newer, cooler stuff now, and I want all of you to be there with me for the tears, happy and sad. On that note, guys, I hope you've liked, I hope you've commented, and I hope you've subscribed. And for now, a goodbye.